You know, logical fallacies are kind of like bugs in our thinking. They're these little glitches in our reasoning that can send us way off course, leading us to totally wrong conclusions. Today, we're going to tackle a really common one, a fallacy you've almost certainly run into, and hey, maybe even used yourself without even noticing.
So let's start with this simple statement. It's going to rain on Tuesday because my father said so. I mean, it sounds innocent enough. Trusting your dad is a good thing, right? But hold on a second. Let's actually think about the logic being used here.
So, really, is it a good reason? Should you go dig out your umbrella for Tuesday based on this? Look, your father might be a fantastic, super trustworthy person, but does that automatically make him a weather expert? Probably not. See, the problem here is that our belief is based entirely on the source of the info, our dad, and not on any actual evidence for the claim itself. And that is the glitch in the system.
This specific kind of mental shortcut, this particular brand of flawed reasoning, well, it has a name. And once you learn it, trust me, you are going to start seeing it absolutely everywhere.
It is called the genetic fallacy. This is what happens when we decide to accept or reject an idea, not because of its own strengths or weaknesses, but simply because of where or who it came from. Think of it like you're judging the idea's genetics or its origin story to decide if it's true or false. The key thing to remember is this: you're attacking the source, not the actual substance of the argument.
All right, so let's see how this thing plays out in a couple of different situations. Okay, think about this super common scenario. You see someone say, "Oh, this book is just horrible. I mean, look who wrote it." That is a perfect textbook example of the genetic fallacy in action. You're dismissing the book just because you don't like the author. The right way to do it, of course, is to actually read the book and judge it for what it is: the writing, the story, the arguments. The author you can't stand might have written a masterpiece, and a writer you love could, you know, totally write a dud. And this is not some new thing people came up with for internet arguments. No way. This fallacy is ancient. Here we have a quote from the Bible, where Nathanael is told he should come meet Jesus. And what's his immediate reaction? It has nothing to do with Jesus himself. It's all about where he's from, Nazareth. This is the fallacy, right there in black and white. Nathanael was all set to just write Jesus off completely because his hometown had a bad rap. He was judging the origin, not the person. He basically assumed that a place with a poor reputation couldn't possibly produce someone of any value, which, as the story goes, turned out to be a really, really flawed assumption. Okay, now let's apply this to a much more complex and, frankly, trickier area: arguments about religious belief. This is where things can get pretty nuanced, so let's unpack it. This is such an important distinction to make. On the one hand, the genetic fallacy is when you say something like, "Oh, your faith is totally invalid because you only believe it because your parents taught it to you." That's just dismissing the belief based on where it came from. But there's a flip side. We also have a personal responsibility not to just blindly follow a belief simply because it's what we inherited. The real principle here is that a belief isn't automatically true or false based on its origin. The real work, the important work, is for each person to evaluate their beliefs for themselves. So, after looking at all these examples, from weather forecasts to ancient history to faith, what's the one big thing we really need to walk away with? This is it. This is the bottom line. The truth of an idea has absolutely nothing to do with where it came from. An idea stands or falls on its own evidence and logic. A source you normally trust can get it wrong, and a source you usually find totally unreliable, well, they might just get it right sometimes. Judging the source is a mental shortcut, yeah, but it's definitely not a shortcut to the truth. And so that leaves us with one last question, something for you to think about. Because, let's be honest, we all do this. What idea, big or small, have you maybe dismissed out of hand? Not because you really looked at it, but just because of who said it, or where you read it, or what group of people you associate it with. Just being aware that this fallacy exists is the first huge step to thinking more clearly.